They call it the Big Island. But what happens when you take the Big Island and you add an N? Then it becomes Conan.
Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
A great, powerful being, ruler of all the barbarian. Well, no, actually, it's not the. No. I think I'm stretching things a bit here, but it's actually Kona N. But is it potent? Oh yeah, oh yeah. Stay with me and see something kind of amazing. It's a Kona. You know, I really love Kona. I love that. I had the incredible good fortune of visiting the Big Island, and Kona is like the western section of the Big Island of Hawaii. Many years ago, at the courtesy of BMW Motorrad, which is their motorcycle side, and they were launching a new motorcycle, and one of the things they did is they took us around by helicopter through Blue Hawaiian Helicopters. And we had this amazing tour. We took off at Hilo, which is on one side of the island, went all the way up the coast and all the way around to Kona, the Kona district. And whenever I think of Kona, that's the first thing I think of. But I'm also very fond of the Kona automobiles from Hyundai, largely because if you'll remember, my very first tube of view that I did was on the Kona Electric, which is the electrified version of this car, which was great. I really like that car a lot. And this is, it gets confusing. This is one of the gas-powered variants of the Kona, but this one is the N. But there is also an N line. Now, what in the world does that mean? Well, that's kind of a sportier version of the regular Kona, but this, the N, is the seriously sporty version. Has a much more powerful engine and a million transmission goodies to make it kind of a wild badger of a thing. It's a little car. It's a 102.4-inch wheelbase. And it's also, you could think of it as an economy car, but this thing's more of a GT, kind of almost like a rally vehicle. It comes only in front-wheel drive. You can actually get all-wheel drive variants of the Kona. But this thing's a beast. It's wild. It's like a barbarian named Schwarza. And it's also, in this particular livery, which is racing red, a really hot little car. And they've done a lot of work on it to make it as sporty as it possibly can be, including a really wild dual clutch transmission with 8 speeds. But the big thing, the thing that makes it so originally crazy, is beneath the hood. Yes, it's the engine. Shall we have a look at the engine? Yeah, why not? Ah, yeah. Here she is. Now this Conan, more like the barbarian with the big sword, has an amazing amount of power for a fairly small engine. It displaces 2 liters. But check this out, man. This turbocharged engine puts out 276 horsepower, the peak coming between 5,500 to 6,000 RPM, which is way up there. But, however, The torque peak is at 2100 to 4700 RPM, a wide spread of torque, and it's 289 pounds of feet. So that is an amazing little engine for such a small and comparatively light car. And as you can see, if we look back here, you could actually see the turbo array coming out of the exhaust manifold. Now this side here, right here, that's what I would describe as the cooler side. And this, which is shielded by, naturally, some kind of a heat shield, is the hot side. The hot side comes straight out of the exhaust manifolds, spins an impeller, which spins that, the cool side, which sucks in the air and compresses it. And here's the air coming in to be sucked in through the air box right here. And then it all goes around, goes through there, and I believe there's an intercooled system. I can't see it right off the bat, but I'm sure it probably has one. Because even though it's the cool side, it gets really warm, the air going into your engine when it's turbocharged, because it's being compressed by that powerful impeller thingy. And that boosts your power. 276 horsepower, I mean, that's a lot. And here's your intakes right in here. And it 1, 2, 3, 4. Cylinders are right there. And a very nice, elegant looking little engine, very neat engine compartment, which we always like, because sooner or later we'll either be doing some maintenance on the car, or we'll just be gazing at it longingly, you know, depending on what you like to do when you look at your engine. But everything's pretty easy to get to. There's your oil checking right there, and there's your filler. Very straightforward, right? And yet there's so much technology at work to get all that power out here. I find that quite amazing. And like I said, this is a front-wheel drive. Oh, right up here is where your wheels are. And then you have that transmission, that dual clutch whiz at 8 speeds. So that's 2 speeds for each cylinder in your 4-cylinder. Well, it doesn't work like that, but that's what you have. And you gotta love the idea of having so much power in such a little car, don't you? Oh, there's more to see. Let me take you around the side here. Well, I've gotten ahead of myself because I need to show you the Monroney, and this is what we have in terms of equipment, and you may notice there's no prices on anything. But I do, in fact, know that this particular vehicle is priced at $35,495. So onward. Much like the Eurocopter, which is now all part of Airbus, flew me around Kona along with some of my fellow journalists around that beautiful coast where there were whales and just amazing numbers of waterfalls. We have wheels. This car has wheels on it. As you can see, that's a really slick design right there. And these are your Pirelli P0s, 235/40s R19. So we're looking at 19-inch wheels and pretty low profile. So you don't want to drive over your volcanic remains on Kona in this car with these tires. You want something, matter of fact, these are summer tires, aren't they? Oh yeah. And this is fall right now, so they're going to change those out pretty soon. You're going to go to sliding. And as we fly around, we come to the rear area, and naturally it's your basic 4-door hatchback. Non-electric assist. Who needs it? Not if you're Conan. You do not need it. It is for girly men. So here we have, it's not a huge amount of room back here because it is a very compact car. But you can fit a couple of good-sized suitcases back here if you need to, no problem. And here we have more storage, and then we have more storage under there is no spare tire. There is this tire. But who puts this on here? This is extremely difficult. There. This is your, what is it? Oh yeah, it's the tire mode. And here I was hoping it was a Lexus style first aid kit, for you'll need one if you mess with me. There we are. And we usually have our 60-40 split for your seat backs, so you can fold them forward to create more cargo area. Nice, huh? Now something else you need to see. This particular model, the N, has this massive, massive exhaust pipe system. Got them big old pipes there with resonators and all kinds of things, so it sounds as potent as it is. And it is potent. I mean, let's figure. The word Conan, or Kona N, is the height of potency, as I see it. But man, that's a nice car. When you look at it from the standpoint of, I need something to get to work that's compact, that'll fit in this nasty parking garage I gotta live with, and yet has awesome amounts of power, wicked handling. We'll get to that shortly, because this car is like really built. We are looking at, in my opinion, I'm sure people will disagree with this, but we're looking at like WRX and Volkswagen Golf R type competition here, just from the standpoint of fun to drive, because it is that fun to drive. It's built for the road and the driving enthusiast, no question about it. Are you a driving enthusiast? Are you enthusiastic about your driving? Well, let's look deeper, shall we? Boy, I tell you, it's always something, isn't it? Now here we have our instrument cluster, our virtual nature, on our Kona N. And there's a bit of a flicker, as you may notice, and sometimes it's there and sometimes it isn't. I noticed this in some of the other video, and that's just weird. I don't really have an explanation for that, but there you go. But while we're on the subject, that's my hand. How are you? 10 and 2? No, 9 and 3. Don't forget that. Let us have an examination, if we shall, of our various themes that we have available to us. And in this particular setting, it says select theme. All right, we'll do that. And link to drive mode. I'm going to turn that off for the moment. Now, Classic A, that's this one here. Now we'll switch to Classic B. Ah! Now, you know that's sport-oriented, right? So if you put it in sport, it's probably going to be something like that. And then we go to Classic C, as in Charlie. And that's bluish, greenish. So I'm thinking eco mode or something like that. Now, I'll demonstrate this now. I shall link to the drive mode, and let's change our drive mode. We are currently in normal, I believe. Oh, there's sport, red. What did I tell you? Huh? And then we go to snow, and it's white, like snow. I feel colder already. And then we go back to eco, which is kind of a blue-green, pleasant, fuel-saving mode. And normal. That's interesting. Is normal's there and snow is there. Boy, the difference, if any, is very subtle. But notice the sound of the exhaust when I put this thing in sport mode. Do you hear that? There's definitely a change going on. Interesting, no? I think it is. Okay, the slight technical problem I was experiencing has been repaired for your entertainment pleasure. Now let's look at some of the other options we have here. Oh well, let's go back a minute. Let's go back to that. We're starting out at attention level, which is high. You know, I'm always attentive. But in this particular category, we also have. I'm not real sure what that does, because if it's showing you, this car doesn't have adaptive cruise control per se, so it does have a steering guidance thing, but I don't know what that's for exactly right there, because normally that would be associated with, you know, I have to look into this, because I may, maybe there is some way of adjusting the following distance on this car when you're in adaptive cruise setting, that I don't know about, but I can't see anyone anywhere on this thing that can tell me. I mean, I can't see anything anywhere that adjusts that. So, what's next? That's all we have in that particular category. If we move to the next category, we have our performance stuff. Hang on to this. 130 degrees for your oil temperature. They're really obsessed with oil temperature and engine temperature on this thing, because if you hit the N mode button, which I'll show you in a second, which you've also seen while I'm driving, they always like to tell you what your oil temperature is. I mean, that's good for them. Our turbo right now is not doing anything, but there's our torque. But I got all that torque without no turbo. Well, I'm parked, but you know, what do you want? And then down here we got, I guess this will keep your lap times. And there's your G meter. Of course, this car needs one, because you go to whipping it around the corners and stuff, and you can get up to, it only goes to, looks like about 2 G's. Which incidentally is when you're in an airplane at 60-degree bank, that's 2 G's exactly. Just so you know that. It's important you know that. But that's that. And then our next category, sorry, I'm parked, I'm in this guy's way. Well, that was me. Here we have the general trip information, a digital speedometer should you desire, trip, and then overall since refueling. Oh, that's very convenient, because I was wondering what the mileage was since this thing's been refueled. Huh, that's very interesting. It's saying we are averaging about 25.2 miles per gallon, which I'd say was exactly average for this type of vehicle. Not particularly good, not particularly awful, somewhere in between. An average, if you will. And so, next, what do we have? What do we have next? Hang on. Yeah, and then accumulated. Okay. I'm going to stick with since refueling. Then we have a compass. And that's the entire thing here. And if you have navigation operating, I believe it'll give you some navigational cues through the in between the instrument cluster there, if you like that. That's nice. And this is just a general display of information, more information on the car, including your tire pressure, and that's it. That's all you get on that particular one. So that's a lot of information at your disposal. God, that flickering is crazy, isn't it? The central screen here, touch screen, is a pretty decent size, and the image quality is, I would say, average. And average these days is excellent. I mean, it's everything you need. And I'm not real sure what we have in our menu selection. If we have I don't know if there's there's all kinds of places people have been. Previous journals. But there you go with that. I don't think there is a 3D setting. If there is, I haven't found it, but that's just me. Anyway, we go down here and we have an incredibly simplified climate control system compared to a lot. Because I have, it has right here, a fan setting in addition to being on automatic. There's maximum and, now how do you turn off automatic? What if I just hold it down like that? Nothing. There's nothing here that tells me I'm on automatic per se, but I think what you can do is it's kind of like a default position. You're on automatic, and then you just adjust your temperature. And I don't even see a separate sync button for this. But, well, anyway, it doesn't have a whole lot of information up here. And normally you're seeing exactly what the car is doing and where it's distributing your air. I don't see anything like that, but down below there with the switches, you got everything you need, your front and rear defrosters and all that stuff. And oh, here's our off switch. There we go, for turning the system completely off. Okay, then the automatic is there. Yeah, it's a very easy to understand system because it's so simple. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it, and that's nice. Okay, moving down, we have our Q
area here for your NFC or near field charging for your cell phone, which I could not get to work for some reason. It could be my phone because I have a case on it. However, most cars seem to be able to deal with that case just fine. And your USB and some 12 volters and all that stuff. And then we have in our drive selection, we have a normal, although really nice leather clad shifter right here. And then of course, to go into manual mode, you go over here, and then you can actuate your paddles if you desire. And we have heated seats. We have a traction control shut-off switch. Ding, ding. It's interesting when you turn it off, it says ESP Sport, so in like a sport mode, which is also ain't got no traction control hardly at all, which I think would be, I may have to play with that because I think that would be really unruly on this car with all the power that it has, and just front wheel drive. So, and here's something in your drive mode you're already familiar with, and this is really something archaic and wonderful. It's a hand brake. Instead of being electronic, it's a mechanical handbrake, which I still think are terrific. I prefer it to electronics because you have so much better control with a handbrake. So think about this. It's got front wheel drive and a manual rear handbrake. What does that mean? It means all kinds of crazy hooligan maneuvers are possible. Not that I encourage that, but you can do that if you want. Here we have a tiny, tiny little console that has actually got a fair amount of room in it, as you can see. And then we have our suede and our regular type. I'm not sure if that's leather. I'll look that up for you. But everything in the car has got the N logo everywhere to let you know it's N. It's not just Kona, it's Conan. See? Conan. See, you got to put that in there. So anyway, how's our headroom? Excellent on this car. Higher roof line helps with that, obviously. And we don't have a sunroof, which is sad because I enjoy our sunroof. But we got, did some journo leave their $5,000 Ray-Bans in? No, they didn't. Damn it! Nobody ever leaves me anything. All right, it's time to check out the back seat. Very important on this car because there's something about it that you need to know. You need to know. Now I got the front seat back quite a bit, and there's not a whole lot of leg room. Headroom is good, absolutely. The rake of the rear seats is also very good. However, it doesn't have a whole lot of leg room compared with some of the competition out there, and that's a thing that you gotta wonder how the logic goes with all that, whether or not you're going to have a little bit larger cargo area, which of course we have the 40-60 split down seats. Ugh. And then my favorite thing ever, of course, very nice, I give high marks to the, we actually have a little bit of a drive shift. Oh, well, like I mentioned before, some of the other Kona models are available with four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So therefore, there is a drive shaft tunnel there, even though there is no drive shaft on this car running fore and aft. It's just front-wheel drive. Anyway, the armrest is excellent. I like the height a lot. There's also some good back support that you don't often encounter with cars that have seats like this in a compact situation. You don't get a lot of, the rake of the seat and stuff is not that terrific, and you don't get a lot of back support. But this is actually, despite the lack of real leg room, it's nice. It's got a very, I really like the rake of the rear seats, and the little bit of lumbar you get. I think it's good for trips. You could survive this car. You got your central, as opposed to your individual map lights. And so all these things, you got a lot of things on this car that are not really chintzy in terms of not being available to you on this particular model, but they have plenty of what you need, and they don't have a lot of over-the-top stuff to help keep the cost down, which we always like. So, all right. So that's your interior. I hope you have enjoyed it. All right then, is everybody strapped in good? Now if you start to get airsick, you just let me know.
I used to fly the Apache attack helicopter, so you guys will have to bear with me.
And if you have any questions, I am in fact, in addition to being a fully qualified helicopter pilot, I am a tour guide licensed by the state of Hawaii. Actually, none of that's true. I'm not a helicopter pilot or a licensed guide, but they have those helicopter pilots that do those aerial tours with Blue Hawaiian. At least they have to all be take courses and everything else in Hawaiian history, because Hawaiian history is kind of amazing, and it's very elaborate as far as all the things that have happened and the stories. It's if you ever get a chance, you should go and spend some time there, because it's an amazing place before it's all bought out by billionaires, which they're trying to do piece by piece. Anyway, where are we? Oh yes, the Kona Inn. Not for the faint of heart. And as you may be able to tell by the surrounding terrain, it's autumn. It's the end of autumn. It's moving into winter. And here I am with my summer tires. But I'm still good. I'm still good right now. But this car has a really taut suspension, and it has something else. It has really, really tight steering. As far as you can really feel every bump in the road, almost to the point that it's too much, but not quite. But what you get in return for that is this razor-like handling that is fantastic for those who like to drive on curvy roads, because it helps you maintain control. And as I will show you, this car has a little bit different rear suspension than the standard Kona. I don't know about the inline. I believe the inline may have a similar, but it's a multi-link rear suspension. And despite the fact that it's just front-wheel drive, you think all-wheel drive would be the way to go with a car like this, just because it's got so much power and it's so light. But they've done all kinds of trickery, electronic and otherwise, to make sure that the how shall I put this? That when you put the power on it, it just grips extremely well. You don't get a hell of a lot of wheel spin or anything like that. It gets the power down to the ground. Very, very good for a lightweight front-wheel drive car. It's kind of impressive, actually, how all this stuff works. They've put a lot of time and effort into this thing, and all these cars are so much fun to drive, largely because they have the enthusiast driver in mind. And what you get, even if you're not an enthusiast driver, is you get a really well handling car that's also very safe. You can hear all my camera gear smashing around the back. And you also have, as you would expect, on just about all cars now, is drive modes. And the drive mode we're in now is your normal, and then you also have your sport and your snow, which when you put it in the snow, unfortunately, does not change the tires from summer tires to all season or snow tires. But you also have your eco mode to get a little bit better mileage. So much of these modes on this car with your 8-speed dual clutch transmission has to do with when and how the transmission shifts. And you also have your normal mode and your regular sport mode. So I'll leave it in normal for now. But even in normal, it's a beast. And there is a little bit of torque steer, definitely. But all I can say is I've driven cars that were souped up with just front wheel drive like this before, and they were a lot worse than this. And this does a pretty decent job of keeping you under control. And let's face it, you must be kept under control. And another thing I like about this car is it's like a lot of performance cars, the ride at slower speeds is kind of stiff. But the faster you go, it gives the opportunity for the suspension to work. And it does a real good job of keeping the car stable, even on bumpy corners, which is the ultimate test of any suspension, is how it does on bumpy corners. All right. Woohoo! See, look there, right through the loose leaves, the traction control system did an excellent job of keeping me going without putting me into the shrubbery. I've been in that shrubbery. I don't particularly care for it, if I may be perfectly blunt and honest. Whee! I'm going to take you down by the Golden Alley. It's what we call this particular stretch of road this time of year. And it may not be so golden anymore, but it's been a very strange fall here because it's been beautiful. I mean, really pretty, but there's been this amazing difference in time as far as when various trees have changed their plumage. Instead of sort of doing it all at once, it's been doing it in stages, it feels like, which has been real interesting. So that's why you see you'll see some trees here that are just starting to change, and you'll see others that have no leaves. They've already done this changing process. So it's pretty interesting stuff. Hang on back there. Golden Alley, here we come. See, it holds the gears very nicely, the dual clutch. And then I got this additional thing here. It's called the NGS, which is the N grin something. It literally has the word grin in it, and it is to make the driver grin. And what it does is the main thing it does, as far as I can tell, is it adapts the transmission such that it will instantly go into the highest gear it can. Or excuse me, lowest gear it can for the highest RPM possible. Let's try it, shall we? See what I'm saying? I'm grinning! And then you hit it over here with your end paddle, and then the end paddle does all kinds of things. Just tells me that my oil temperature is 188 degrees. I'm okay with that. Engine temperature is 193. Wow, did you see that? That was a bobcat. Whoa! Hope I got that on video. But then it goes back to normal if you hit the end paddle again. So you got all kinds of things happening on the steering wheel that aren't conventional things that happen on the steering wheel. But the N mode is, I think that is also available and part of the inline, I would assume. I don't know where the N comes from. It probably is Korean for something. This being a Hyundai, but then maybe not. Maybe it's just, you know, somebody, it's like the name of the car. Somebody decided to start naming, and this, I think in theory, in their little family, they consider this to be a small SUV. Somewhere, I guess, above the venue and, above the venue and below the Tucson or something like that. But they consider it to be a small SUV. So, it is equipped with a name denoting one of their usual types of SUVs, and that you all started with the Santa Fe, and then you got your Tucson, and then you got your El Paso. No, you don't have an El Paso, but you got your Santa Cruz, which is a pickup truck sort of thing, and then our Kona, which is kind of a, maybe this is supposed to be a surfer vehicle. That would make sense. Okay, you throw your boards on the top here and all your gear in the back, and off you go. That would make perfect sense to me. But here's what I'm talking about right here. We're going at 43 miles an hour, and this is sort of a bumpy road, and you can really feel it. But if I was to wick this up dramatically, the suspension tends to absorb things a lot better. Some of that could be the tires too. I've discovered with a lot of high-performance summer tires, they're pretty stiff for obvious reasons, because they're designed to benefit all aspects of handling, and including cornering, which of course means they want minimal sidewall flex, and you need some sidewall flex to absorb some of the smaller bumps. And when you throw that on a car that has a already stiff suspension, then you add tires that have a stiff sidewall, you're going to get a pretty stiff ride at lower speeds. But the faster you go, the more you push it, the better it gets. So I do like this little stretch of road here. We're going to whip around now. We're going to do us a U-turn. We're going to do this is a small car U-turn test. Whee! Tight, tight, tight. Yep. Excellent. So for you urbanites, this is a good car in an urban situation because you can whip it into little parking places, and all in all, it's a good choice. So it's later. You know, I've been driving this little car for a while now, and I've decided it's loud, wind noise wise. It's not a quiet car. If you want a quiet car, don't go to Kona for that. Unless maybe some of the non-N Konas are quieter. The electric, I don't remember the electric having a lot of wind and air noise to it at all. Naturally, the engine's very quiet. It sounds like an electric motor. But I don't remember the rest of the car being quite as generally ambient loud as this one is. Now the thing is, what you do when you encounter that, you make doubly, triply sure that all the windows are up. Shut the sunroof. There is no one. There is no sunroof here. So you don't make sure that you don't have any kind of intrusive sources of noise that may be affecting your evaluation of how noisy the car actually is. That's just a little bit of something you gotta do when you're evaluating. Well, this is just a little jackrabbit. It just wants to go and go and go. It's amazing if you drop yourself down into like the Volkswagen Golf R. The two vehicles are so very similar in their general size and that kind of thing. But man, they could not be more different in terms of personality. And I think it's just... I mean, there's not a single aspect of the cars that to me seems the same, other than the fact that they're really, really quick steering, and they're what else? Gosh, the room is about the same, I would say. I bet it's pretty close. And the utility of having the little hatchback, that's the same. But in terms of drivetrain, handling, driving, wow, very different. And I think, for what it's worth, the Kona is probably imbued with a much lower price of admission. This is probably one of the most expensive Kona models you can get. I don't remember the electric being crazy expensive, but you can't get an electric car that's got anything on it at all, and there aren't that many stripped versions out there that you're not going to pay a pretty healthy sum but nothing like it used to be, where you were totally wedded to, if you wanted an electric car, you had to get a Tesla. Oh boy. But now, since all the manufacturers are coming out with more and more electrics, the price is coming down. But you have to decide whether or not that's right for you. And for a lot of people, this beautiful gas-powered car is going to be just fine for them. And when you add the performance you get from the, I'm assuming the inline is very interesting, but it doesn't have the mega motor that the Conan has. And boy, is it something. That would be a great test to actually see down a curvy road, this in a Volkswagen. Like the Subaru RX, a WRX is very different, just in its entire personality and everything. I mean, I know I just said a minute ago that the Golf and this are very different, but you got to remember the WRX is a sedan. And it just generally has a little more. Both this and the Volkswagen have such aggressive response. I wouldn't call it like rough edges, but it's you have to be kind of dedicated to the idea of a performance car with this one. You're just wasting your time if you're going to tootle around in it. It begs to be driven aggressively. The Golf is like that too. You got all this capability, you got these massive brakes, you got everything else, and you might as well use it. You're paying extra for it. Oh, I must share with you the rear suspension. See, you're on your plain Jane Konas, you have what is known as a torsion axle, which is basically just a big piece of metal that runs from both sides, and has, I mean, depending on the design, it has coil springs on it, and the actual flexing of that beam is mainly your, that's your suspension. And it's funny because it's not an independent suspension, but it kind of mimics one, and depending on the degree of flex in that beam. But this car has a multi-link suspension, as you can see. You got your link here, and your coil spring, and your shock absorber, and everything. This is the kind of rear suspension you would often expect to find on a much larger vehicle. Because the torsion beams, there's so many things that have had them, and for example, if I remember the Prius pre-2010 had a torsion. I think it did. We owned a 2008. I could swear it had a torsion beam, and it works really well. It does. There's not a problem with it. But like the new Ford Maverick two-wheel drive, I'm almost certain has a torsion beam in the back. I've driven it and tested it, but that was pre-tube. So, but anyway, as you can see, it's a very nice, fully independent suspension. And the car itself is interesting in that it's pretty well clad in places here. You got these plastic covers here that help protect everything. Everything's reasonably well tucked away. And so, you know, you could almost call it, if you get an all-wheel drive version of the Kona, you could do a little off-roading with it as long as you're careful. But what you don't want to do is have these tires, because as you can see, these are summer high-performance pavement tires. There's very little in the way of cross stuff here that will get you some traction when you need it. In slippery substrate like snow and everything else. So during the wintertime, you're going to need, with this car in particular, you are absolutely going to need some all-season or snow tires, unless you want to like get stuck, because you will. But anyway, nice suspension for such a little car. I'm impressed with this. Whee! All right. Let's try Golden Alley in the other direction here and see how we do. Ah, boy, we got a lot of traffic. Are they leaf peepers? Probably not. I think they've come and gone. We do get that around here. We do get your pee-pee leafers. Those that like to gauge the beauty of the forest at this time of year. Little do they know I will come out with my sword and hack them to bits. Arnold wouldn't do that. Arnold's a nice fella. It's amazing we got all these action actors, action hero types that are starting to get older, like real old in some cases. And I don't see a whole lot of replenishment coming from the young gangs. Come on, boys and girls, we got more. That's the greatest part. We got more superheroes that are women now. Like that Brie Larson, she's Captain Marvel. She's great. Love her, love her. But who can take the place of Arnold? No one really, that I can think of.
Where would I find such a man? Why am I asking you?
Harrison Ford is about to do another Indiana Jones movie. He's 80. Would Harrison Ford drive one of these? I don't know. He'll surprise you. How many of you know that Harrison Ford was a very active, I don't know if he still is, but a very active motorcyclist? And true story, he had in the early 90s and stuff, he had a Honda VFR 750F, which I happen to have one of those. And he had a racing company, Two Brothers Racing at the time, put fuel injection on it because it was carbureted, and they put fuel injection on it, which I thought was nuts. But little did I know that fuel injection was coming along so smoothly. And we were all of us skeptical types were saying, it's never going to replace carburetors completely. Not on motorcycles. On cars, that's one thing, because it's not as critical to have that fine line between on and off when you're opening the throttle coming out of corners and things. There's no way they'll ever get that right with the fuel injection. Well, boy, did they. But at the time that was happening, carburetors were pretty perfect, I thought. Especially on that particular motorcycle, which I knew well. I said, yeah, why would Harrison Ford want fuel injection on his VFR when the carburetors are so good? Well, he's Harrison Ford, that's why. The whole story may not be true, but I believe the source that told me that was a real good source. Well, we don't have a lot of leaves in the Golden Alley, and I apologize for that. That's my fault. For taking you where there was a promise of leaf foliage, and I did not deliver. Oh, well. Oh, did I mention the brakes? No, I didn't. I should stop and mention them. Oh, dear. But they're massive. They're huge. They're like really big discs, which you probably noticed in the shot of the wheels that they have very nice painted end discs, end rotors underneath there. Or excuse me, end calipers. God. I blame everything for my mistakes. That's my motto. Now, there's a fair amount of wind noise on this car, but there is very little road noise. So overall, and then you got that massive exhaust, massive, extremely Conan-ish exhaust in the back. So, but it's not bad. It's not exactly obtrusive until you bang on your grin factor. Can you hear that? Boy, that exhaust, I'm telling you right now. It's even frightening the cat. Hey, buddy, what you doing? He's checking this out. That's a lot of noise there, but that's a special thing that comes with the fact that it's two of them. God, I can't get over how loud this is. It's not that bad in the car unless you put it in the sport mode. Then it's present. It's not bad. Well, I tell you what,
I hope I've answered some of your questions about the Kona Inn, the Conan. But you know, the thing is, one question I definitely haven't answered is there anyone that can really replace Conan?
She was Xena, a mighty princess forged in the heat of battle.
Well, I think the answer clearly is hell yeah. Anyway, you guys take care of yourselves out there. Thank you for watching. And don't forget, when you're on the road, don't drive like I do. Don't pay any attention to what I say, because I'll just leave you astray. Don't buy a car at all. Just save your money and go for a helicopter ride in Hawaii. That's what you ought to do. Anyway, take care, everybody. Next time.